right, first graders, we're going to be inspired by Van Gogh's Starry Night today, and we're going to start by drawing with oil pastel a nighttime sky. We're going to include things like stars and even a moon. When we draw our moon, we can pick which phase the moon is in. The moon looks different depending on the night. So I think what I'm going to do is draw a crescent moon in mine. I'm going to start with the letter C. And I'm using these neon pastels. They show up pretty bright. And then I'm going to make almost a smaller letter C inside it. And then I'm going to color it in. We're going to be doing a watercolor resist. So if you color in fairly darkly and draw hard, your oil pastel will show through much, much better. You can change colors whenever you want. You can use realistic colors like yellow, or you can be creative and use blue or pink. I'm going to add some stars. I can do that a lot of different ways. I can go like that, where I just did an X with 2 extra lines, one down the middle, one here. I can even make little circles. From far away, stars don't really look like stars. They look almost like little circles. I can change colors when I feel like it. I can do a star shape where I do an upside down V, diagonal, across, and down, and then color in. Or I can do all of these. I don't need to pick just one. I can use a variety of different star shapes. Now, Van Gogh is very famous for his swirling lines. So what I'm going to do when I'm finished is I'm going to grab a pastel, and I'm going to make lines that swirl around. So I'm going around the stars and around my mood. I want mine to be fairly thick, so I made it a line, and now I'm going to go back over and kind of color to give it some thickness. And I'm going to repeat this several times to create a really swirling effect, and I'll time lapse you while I do in different colors. Now you can see I have a lot of swirly lines. They're different thicknesses, and sometimes I'm going to go behind. So I'll show you an example here. I don't want to overlap my lines, or it looks like I'm kind of just scribbling. So I'm going to go behind this one and swirl. So I'm not going over and repeating lines. I'm going behind a line if I need to do that. Now I'm ready for watercolor paints. We're going to be using liquid watercolors, so you don't need to add water. And you'll see that it's really kind of moving away from the oil pastel. So initially I'm painting right on top, and then you can see it kind of balls up on top of it. That is because the oil pastels are made of, big surprise, oil. Oil and water don't mix together. It's like they're not friends. When they run into each other on the playground, they move away from each other. And that's kind of what's happening here. They're moving away from one another because they don't mix. Now, next time I see you, we are going to create a cityscape. A cityscape is just a picture of a city, and we're going to put it right on top of these beautiful nighttime sky pieces. Now mine is all ready. Time for it to dry. I'm going to use this black piece of paper to create a city. I'm going to use construction paper crayons, and I can really do whatever kind of colors I want. I'm going to start with a tall building here. And you can pick one of these cities, you can combine them, or you can invent your own. So this is my first building. I think I'm going to make white windows on this building. This is at night, so the windows are really showing up as just light showing through the building. Maybe for my next building, I'll make a building with an arch, and I'm going to switch colors here. Maybe this one has circle windows. So each building can be unique. It can be however you like. It doesn't need to look just like my building. I'm going to put a little door on this one. And you'll notice that my buildings are touching each other. It's one right next to the other. So they share that line right in the middle. This building, I think I'm going to put rectangle windows on. I'm changing colors whenever I feel like it, or I can stick to just one color if I want. I can make some buildings so tall that they go to the top of my paper. That's fine. And again, they are sharing that center line. I think I have room for 2 more, or maybe one building like this that looks like stairs. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Now, the next step is going to be to cut along the top line. And this can be a little bit tricky, but the good news is if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my scissors, whoops, don't throw them, and I'm gonna cut along the top line of my building. And I want them to stay connected if possible. So now I'm gonna go to this building, up and around. So I'm not cutting the buildings apart, I'm just cutting off the top extra paper. I'm gonna show you right now what happens if you accidentally cut the building off. So I cut that off, I still have an extra building here. That's okay. I'm gonna cut it out, and then when I glue, I'm just gonna put it back together. So now it's time to use glue in art. It's usually in this cup, and you can see when I first lift it up, there's a big drip. So I'm gonna lift it up and wipe on the side so I can move around and not have a lot of drips. Again, drippy, wipe it on the side a couple times, and now I'm ready. When I glue, I wanna put the glue on the back of something, not on the front. And I'm gonna trace around the outside line. So I'm going around the top. I'm not adding big globs. I'm definitely not pouring the glue. I'm trying to keep it nice and neat, tracing around. When I glue my buildings, I want them to go right to the bottom of the paper. So I'm lining up the bottom of my paper and the buildings, and I'm pressing. Now I have this extra building that I accidentally cut off. That's no big deal. I'm just going to trace around it, and I'm gonna glue it right next to my last building. Oops, I think it went this way. Now my paper's still a little bit wet, but yours will be nice and dry. You can flip it over and give it a back rub so your paper sticks really well. But I have a really cool cityscape that kind of looks like Starry Night, but is also my own. It's really bright and unique. I used a variety of different lines to create my own Starry Night.